This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And I always get really excited and proud when we have a guest on who's already been on the show. I can't remember when it was. It was a previous season, but given we're now well into season 6, it could have even been a couple of seasons ago. This is somebody that, if you are quite prolific on LinkedIn, you probably know this person, but I'm going to let her introduce herself in a moment. And we are going to be talking today about her LinkedIn advice, which every single person listening needs to take heed of because the changes are coming. So, without further ado, I'd like to welcome a rather squeaky because she's not very well, but thank you for joining us anyway. Bevan, how are you?
I'm all right, how are you? Although I just tried to be like really excited and that made me sound even squeaky, which is great.
She's even squeaky. I mean, I have to say, if you are watching us on YouTube, you'll see she still looks absolutely beautiful and glowing and gorgeous backdrop. But it's the remnants of a trip to Budapest, I believe, to a thermal spa. You should be coming back feeling all invigorated, not poorly.
I blame the planes. It's always the planes.
It is. I know. It's just you think back to, when we were in COVID and everything was so sanitary, and now it's like everyone's coughing, spluttering. It seems like just to be the norm again.
And do you know what? I honestly think it's worse because we spent all that time like locked indoors, not socializing, not sharing bugs. And now when we get
Agree.
home, it proper wipes us out.
I agree, and I have to say, I've today's recording day, but I have managed a couple of actual work calls, and one of my clients is really poorly with that new COVID strain. So beware, everyone. And if you're feeling slightly poorly, please don't go to work. Work from home. Don't spread your germs.
Believe it or not, I was actually speaking to one of my clients yesterday as well, and he was like, I've been ill and I managed to soldier through, Jem, but unfortunately I managed to infect the rest of the office now.
Oh,
So
it'll just sweep the office. We're just going to see that time and time again. But anyway, you are obviously not just an expert on being poorly, because that's something that would be really terrible. Tell us about your business because you've got Social Gems and So Easy. I can't say it in the same accent as you. Tell us what
crazy.
your business is.
So SocialJems is effectively LinkedIn, a LinkedIn business. We help with every element of LinkedIn. So we can completely manage your account from doing like your content, your engagement, your outreach. But I also offer coaching and one-to-one sessions as well. It completely depends on what you need from us. And So Easy is a lower price point version, basically. So we're seeing lots and lots of people now using AI, which I've got no issues with to help them with their social media, but quite a lot of people are using it as a this is what I should post rather than seeing it as the tool that it is.
Mm,
So effectively, So Easy will help you create the graphics, it'll help you create the posts, but with your tone of voice in it. So you're
brilliant.
not losing yourself like we're seeing on quite a lot of the content on LinkedIn. And it's basically for people that can't afford someone like me to help them out when they're starting out at the beginning.
I love that you've done that, that you've sort of listened to what people actually need and want, and you've created two price points. That's brilliant. By the way, I've just noticed in your background you've got a matching mic.
I
Why,
do.
why is your Yeti not in front of you?
I always have it over there. So Josh bought me for Christmas one year, and he was like, "Do you like it?" And I was like, "No. Why does anybody want to hear my like voice louder?"
No, but it's clearer.
Never
This
use it.
I call this my Sean Anderson mic because when I first launched the pod, we were about 3, 4 months in, and Sean very kindly said, "Have you got a sponsor?" And I was like, "No." He said, "Well, can Hoxo sponsor you?" I was like, "Yes." And the first thing he said was, "You need to get serious with your sound. Then you need to get this Blue Yeti mic. It's the best one." And I'm like, "It's a rather phallic symbol, Sean." And I have to say, I've gone seasons where I've not used it, and then I've been guests on other people's, and they've said you need a proper mic, and I'm like, here comes the Yeti. So you'll have to tell me if you're listening to this and you've listened to previous ones. Do I sound better when I've got my big mic in front of me? Probably.
Yeah, and probably let me know how to set it up because it always sounds like absolute crap when I do
Oh
it.
no, but you're just all squeaky anyway. Well, look, thank you for your introduction, and we are. I mean, look, anyone that's clicked on the link today will have done so, and I imagine it's going to probably be one of the best listened to this season, even though we've only just got going, because LinkedIn is one of those topics that it's a bit like hybrid working. It ain't ever going anywhere. We need it as recruiters, and I don't know about you, but you obviously coach people day in, day out on the LinkedIn, and it's part of, it forms part of a conversation, a dialogue when I talk to my clients about their LinkedIn strategy and candidates about how they use LinkedIn. What's going on with the algorithm?
So they're changing things. They've said over the last couple of weeks that they're changing how they're ranking how they're ranking content. So content that's promoting something or someone, helping someone get a job, sharing good news, that type of stuff's going to be pushed further
Hmm.
where it's adding value effectively. That's why we're seeing carousels are doing better than they used to do as well.
Okay.
They're also changing how they're ranking comments. So if you're one of those people that likes putting comments on people's posts, but they're always short, sharp, to the point, you're actually now going to get penalized for that. They're wanting longer conversations. So if you've done a post, like prime example, I launched working for So Easy this week on LinkedIn. That was a promotion role. They tend to do really, really well. A lot of the comments on there were just thanks. Now they're saying doing things like that, or congratulations, sorry, not thanks. Congrats on your new role. Very short comments, and they're saying things like that now you're now going to get penalized for. So it's better to put something that's longer and more thought out. However, it still is a little bit all over the place. So they're saying this is exactly what's going to happen, but I'm still seeing posts where I'm complaining about kids and the 6 week holidays and things like that actually still performing better where it's a little bit more personal led. So I
Mm.
think that's what they're wanting, but they're still fighting against what people want from the platform and what they're looking for from the platform.
Can we come back to personal post? I just want let's both try and remember we'll pin it because we do need to come back to personal. Right. Okay. So the comments section, I've got a real example here of why I often say to people, because people do often message me literally and say, you seem to be consistent, you're always in my feed, and I'm like, good. That's called consistent hard work. It doesn't just happen by itself. But some of my best ROI posts, which again, I want to come to you about ROI on LinkedIn, have not been from my posts, they've been from the comments I've made on other people's posts. And the best example I can give, and I'm very sorry, I'm not going to name him, was another rectorate in March, maybe March 2025, so this year. He commented on his red flags when interviewing recruiters, obviously to place as a rectorate. And his red flag list I totally disagreed with. Maybe apart from, I think there was one bit where he said, "You don't know your figures." I'm like, absolutely. What recruiter doesn't know their figures? But the rest of it was absolute bullshit. It was, has moved jobs. Like, hello, we've just been through a pandemic and a recession. People do actually move jobs sometimes because they can't help it. If you've run your own business, and I was like, what? Um, uh, if you've had a long period of not working, and I'm like, what about people taking time out to travel? I mean, it was just really old fashioned. So I commented and said, I disagree with most of your list, X person. And I have to say, particularly on point, if they've run their own business this year so far, now saying this in October, I've placed about 12 people this year who have run their own businesses back into employment. They can call me smiley face or clown, or I did a funny emoji, and he replied and said, yeah, I'm not interested, my clients don't want them. And I said, absolutely no problem, you keep saying this, they can call me. And my actual comment, because you can see your impressions, can't you? I'm not joking, I think I have 30,000 impressions just on that comment, and I got 3 new candidates off it from a
But
comment.
that's the thing, and that's another point that I want to make now. We've always said that commenting and getting involved in other people's conversations is important on LinkedIn. Effectively, the way you need to utilize it and view it to get the most from it is it's an online networking event. So how you'd act at a networking event, you want to be acting on LinkedIn. So that small talk and those conversations that you get involved in that room, you need to be getting involved in the room that is LinkedIn. And you can now see the impressions. You'll actually find with a lot of the comments that you're making, if you add those comments up in the day in terms of the impressions, they're getting more impressions than your content.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of people think, oh, to get noticed on LinkedIn, to be consistent on LinkedIn, I need to be posting every day, I need to be posting multiple times a day. You don't. Realistically, to rank as adding value to LinkedIn's platform, you need to be doing 3 posts a week
Okay.
and creating more comments, getting involved in conversations, creating a community, because that's what they want you to do.
So
And
you
by doing that, you'll ensure when people are searching for stuff, you'll rank higher.
I think that's really, it's actually very interesting because it's when you're talking to people not on LinkedIn, maybe for me, non-recruiters, and talking to them about, in fact, I saw a friend in the supermarket yesterday and she's an artist, and she just said, I've recently joined LinkedIn, Leisha, and I said, I had noticed you'd looked at my profile actually. And she said, well, in my world, in the art world, everyone's telling me I need to be on LinkedIn because you go into events and that kind of thing. And she said, I don't really understand the platform. She's all on Instagram and TikTok, obviously, because she's straight to consumer at the moment. And I said to her, I was trying to explain how LinkedIn that is a different platform. And actually, I wish I'd had this conversation with you before I spoke to Lucy, because I could have said what you've just said there. That is so easy to then appreciate, because if you were going to a networking event, you wouldn't just stand there in the corner and present your post, which is basically what happens when you share a post. You would target people to go and speak to and have a meaningful conversation. You wouldn't just go, congratulations on your new role. I agree. Which is really what people comment. You would say, congratulations on your new role. How did you get it? How are you finding it? You'd have a conversation.
And that's so it's even worse than that. So if you're actually just creating content, it's like you're one of the speakers at these events,
Yes.
but you've not actually told anyone which room you're in, how to get to you, or anything else. You just literally stood on stage screaming and then getting really upset that no one's come to your talk, but you've not directed anyone to it. And that's what you're doing by commenting on this stuff. You're starting conversations with people, you're sparking interest. Once there's that interest and intrigue, they're then checking out your profile to find out a little bit more about you.
Mm. Right. So I understand now the metaphor is really powerful, and I think anyone listening will
Sorry.
appreciate what you just said there. The direction that the platform is taking us in is that they want us to be sharing content and engaging with each other on, when you say promotional stuff, so what do you actually mean, and adding value, which I think that's what it's all about. So what do you, can you give some examples?
But that's as vague as they've been with
Oh
it,
God.
the information that they've given us. So what I'd say is things where it's I've just recently been promoted, we've just brought this person into his company, we're looking for someone in our business because we're growing, that type of thing. Where people are actually showing, look, this is me, and I'm really knowledgeable about my shit in my area.
Mm.
Here's a massive PDF that's 20 pages of how you can work with me and how amazing I am.
Okay.
That type of stuff's going to be doing a lot better.
Mm.
But like I've said, we're still seeing that personal, more getting to know each other type content still doing better,
Mm.
because that's effectively what people are looking for still.
Mm.
Because although we want to know that the people that we're working with are knowledgeable, they know their shit, we still want to like them as people too. And in order to like them as people and get to know them as people, we need to be sharing a little bit of that personal stuff as well.
Going back to your analogy, it is an analogy, not a metaphor. I've just realised my English teacher would have gone mad at me. We, we're not just talking about sharing, what we eat for lunch 5 days a week, are we? Can you get, because I think I'm a good example of what personal brand actually really means. For me, it's what I want people to think of when I'm not in the room, when I'm not there. What do I stand for? But when you think personal, when you're engaging and coaching your clients, who a lot of people struggle to share stuff about themselves. Like, what's the starting point, Jen?
So with me, what I always say to these people is don't share anything that you wouldn't share naturally. So when you're at a networking event, the stuff that you talk to people about, talk to them about that stuff. So like if I give an example of me, the people that have followed me for absolutely years will know that I'm adopted, but will not see it a lot in my content because it's not really a conversation I like having. I'll
Mm.
utilize it occasionally to try and educate people on that area because we still see, and it pisses me off slightly, where people are like, oh, you can't love an adoptive kid as much as your own. Oh, and I'll occasionally say bits around things like that. But the majority of the time, it's a conversation I don't want to have. It doesn't add any value to me as a person. So I stay away from it. But I will talk about my dogs because they mean more to me than anything else.
I know.
Having a little bit of a time out of work and doing things like going to Bucharest. And now, actually, years ago, if you'd have said have some time off, Jem, I'd be like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not around with my clients 24/7. But actually, as I've developed as a business owner, I've realized I need those times to step back. That's giving people an insight into me and how I'm learning and developing as a person. And it's adding value in terms of you can see who I am, what matters to me, that I actually give a shit about people. And I'll talk about that type of thing. So it's sharing, but sharing on a level that you're comfortable with rather than pushing yourself too much, starting conversations that you don't really like having. Because then when someone comes up to you at a networking event and goes, oh, that post that you did about adoption, and you're like, "Do they want to talk about that?"
Yeah.
It causes a disconnect. And people are like, well, you were all right talking about it online. You're just doing it for likes.
Right. I think that's a really, really valid point. And, people often talk around authenticity, but actually, I think there needs to be some consistency in the why you're sharing stuff. And I think, just to sort of, before we carry on with the personal branding stuff, I think it's so important not to do things just for the likes. I get really, I skim past. If I can see a post is out there just to get the likes, even if it's a personal one, even if it's a bit funny, I just eye roll. Maybe I don't know if it's just my age, but I just feel really intolerant towards it because I'm just like, you're just using my time and my space on my LinkedIn feed to just purely do that. It's neither one thing or another. So I think that's really good advice because for me, when I sort of see some of the best, I think some of the best brands out there on LinkedIn, they're not necessarily talking about really personal shit like being adopted, for example, or, the fact I talk about a lot around what my second husband, he came out and how I went through that journey and the girls and everything.
That
But
affected who you were as a person, and that's how you ended up being who you are. So it's relevant.
exactly, personal journey, and I think it's you don't need to share really personal stuff. It's about who you are as a who you are in terms of your values, what matters to you, and just sort of opening the lid a little bit. Like you say, if you're at a networking event and someone was saying, "Oh, where do you live? How long did it take you to get here today?" You wouldn't just stand there and go, I'm not going to tell you that. You'd be like, oh, it's taken half an hour and I've driven here and I've had to drop the kids off on the way. And you're showing a little bit of yourself. So I think that's really important. So, I mean, look, from a,
Even if you're not comfortable doing like overtly personal posts, sorry, I just want to cling to that little bit that you'd said then. That's a way of adding that personal stuff in there. So actually talking about on a Monday or a Friday, doing a rundown of your week, talking to people about what you've done work-wise, and mentioning a couple of little personal bits in it as well, because a lot of people are like, oh, they're just a business owner. I bet they've got loads of people helping them do loads of stuff. Actually, most female business owners that I know will have done a full day shift before they even start on a morning, like making kids breakfast, sorting everything out, and actually showing that what you do outside of work, showing what you like as a person, what matters to you,
yeah,
you actually like care. So you put in that bit in because that matters to you. You put in, you're making sure you're starting work and doing all this. You're going out and seeing your clients because you think face to face is important and you only get so much from a Zoom call.
yeah,
Conversations that you're having with clients day in, day out, where there's common objections or common problems that they've got, or common things that they're saying to you about you as a person and saying how amazing you are. That's all content.
yeah. Yeah. So just going back to the algorithm for a minute. So, and this kind of trajectory that LinkedIn, I know we're going to come on to some of the changes that are ahead. What, where does personal brand sit in this? Because you're saying it's going to reward on value and the sort of that promotional element. So it's rewarding success and rewarding someone proving that they're an expert. So how does that align with sharing personal stuff?
So that's effectively what they're wanting to push. Obviously, there's that personal element that's needed to create that community anyway. So it kind of still fits into that.
Mm.
And although they are saying that that's the content that they're going to push more, we're still seeing more traction on the stuff that's a little bit more personal.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. And despite the stuff that they're wanting to change, that's never going to change.
No.
That's because even if you're sharing a carousel and it's a big value piece and it's talking, say I did one and it's giving people top 10 tips to stand out on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
it'd do well, but it'd only do well with people that are interested in finding out how to do better with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Whereas when I go, oh my God, why the kids going back on a Thursday? I can't see point.
Oh,
Why don't we just send them back on a Monday? All of a sudden that appeals to a larger amount of people on LinkedIn because it's talking about something that's relevant to them and relatable to them.
yeah.
So your personal stuff will always do better for that reason.
Yeah.
It's just relatable to a larger amount of people. When you're talking about the ins and outs of what you do exactly, you're talking to a small minority of people, you're talking to your ideal target market. So even though LinkedIn is going to push that content more, you're still going to see more traction on the personal stuff. So you're always going to want a mix.
Yeah. No, and I think ultimately that's where you're creating and you're curating a community of people that enjoy what you write about, need to get to know the real you. You get to know them by the commenting back and, engaging back with them so that when you do share that value, that carousel, because it's all about balance, isn't it? Even if it's not going to get the same level of engagement per se, your impressions hopefully will still be relatively high.
Yeah.
I think the carousel piece is interesting then. So they've kind of dabbled with carousels 2, 3 years ago, and they didn't really take off. And then everyone was like, "You've got to do carousels," and then it's like, "Oh, that's so 2022." But they seem to be making a resurgence now.
They do. You've also got to think it is like platform specific. So like when I do a carousel personally, my carousels never do as well as a video or an image because that's what people are used to see. But from me, my content's always been image video led.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas Sarah Bostock, if she did a carousel, that carousels does well. With
yeah,
some of her clients, the carousels do well. But
yeah.
all of them they prefer the video. So it is, even though that's what they're saying they want to push, it's still a trial and error
Still the
thing.
trial and everything. Well, I'm just going to stick with my selfies. Sorry, Becky,
However,
with selfie queen.
and me too. But what's a good thing to do with the carousels is because they're really big value pieces, it's evergreen content.
It is.
So although when you post it, it's not going to do as well, it's great content to pin to your featured
I was
section.
just about to
So
say that. Do we pin it to our featured?
because when people are like out and about and you're commenting on stuff, like we said previously, it sparks interest, it sparks intrigue. People are then going to go off and check out your profile.
Mm.
Your profile on LinkedIn is like your landing page of your website. You want to tell everybody as much information as possible,
Yeah,
but in a good way. And that featured section is great for that. So if you've got these little carousels that are like top 10 CV tips, how to ensure your onboarding process is as smooth as possible so your staff turnover's low, ways to work with me, what clients say about me, and having even just a carousel that's testimonials,
that's a good idea.
that's showing people this is me, this is how I can help, this is what people think about working with me in a really clear and concise way on your profile as soon as people log onto it.
Yeah, no, that's really useful. Thank you for that. So, LinkedIn changes ahead on verification.
There's one, sorry, I will get back to that bit, but there's
Oh,
one
okay.
as well with the profile. So if any of you are actually paying for your accounts, whether that's premium sales nav
Yeah,
or a recruiter license,
yeah.
you've also now got access to have a scrolling banner. Now,
Mm,
you might have seen, and if anyone checks out my profile after this, you'll see I've got one on there. There's about 6 different slides.
yeah.
It's a great way again of showcasing who you are and how you can help in a lot of different ways.
Mm.
So they do move really quickly though. So you need to ensure that if you're utilizing that space, that you're only having a one short, concise sentence on each slide.
Right.
On mine, I've broken it down and gone training, one-to-one sessions, so easy. This is how we can help, and then a call to action at the end.
Yeah.
So you're telling people what you need them to do to get in contact with you.
Yeah.
So if you are going to start utilizing that banner, use it well, keep your sentences concise so it's easy for people to read, and make sure you've got a call to action at the end.
Good. No, mine is also a scrolling one. I think I was one of the first. I've had mine for years, so I just thought everyone did, but then I realized people don't.
Yeah, not everyone does, and not everyone uses it as well because they're just not aware that they've got that functionality. So with the verification, so this is something that LinkedIn have mentioned in the last couple of weeks, so it is very new.
Mm.
It will be getting rolled out to anyone that's changing roles or
Okay.
starting a new role to start with. So it might start affecting you guys when this goes live. Um, what they're trying to do now, because there's been so many different scams recently, and I'm sure Lisa will agree, people have been contacted by recruiters, and those recruiters are then saying, right, okay, we need money from you for us to sort out your CV or to put you forward for this role, lots of different variations, but they're all scams. So effectively, they're now making every recruiter or every person who has a recruitment in their title verify their account to ensure that there's less and less of these scams happening.
Mm. I mean, I think all the platforms, Meta's doing verification as well on WhatsApp. I was telling you before we started recording about my daughter's boyfriend, where he was a recipient. He was registered with an agency. He got a random WhatsApp from another agency saying, "Oh, we've been passed your details. We're looking for X, Y, and Z." And he had the wherewithal to message me and go, "Is this a real agency?" And it wasn't. It was a bogus agency because the first thing I did was go on Company House, went on LinkedIn, they didn't exist. So unfortunately we know that cyber scam with recruitment is very hot. You see a lot of people sharing stories of horrific, impersonation of their business. So I actually it's one of those sort of digital changes that I really agree with, and I think you've got nothing to fear. If you are a kosher recruiter, then what would you worry about?
So I do and I don't. There's
Okay.
little bits that they need to change at the moment. So right now, just as an example, I can't verify my account. I can't verify my account because I refuse to put Gemma as my full name. Because no one calls me Gemma, everyone calls me Gem. And literally, I've been called Gem for that long that when someone goes Gemma, my head goes down and I instantly think of my
Are you
tummy.
like who?
Yeah, exactly. but they won't let me change my name on LinkedIn unless I put it to Gemma. Now, I get why, but I also think they need to take into consideration people that going through like a transition and actually going from male to female, and obviously the
Or
passport
divorced,
don't actually
or
or
married.
or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so many different variations like that that they're not taking into consideration, and how many people it will affect if this with this verification being put in place. I do think they need to work out those kinks before they start pushing this out.
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. And given that this podcast is all about creating inclusivity and making everyone feel like they belong, I hadn't even thought about that because when you mentioned this in the women in recruitment leadership community, that this was a forecast of what was happening, I was like, I've got no issue with that, but I hadn't thought that through. So thank you for that consideration. And we'll see. I guess when this goes live towards the end of 2025, we'll see where it's actually being rolled out. And as we both know, I mean, we're using LinkedIn to promote our businesses. We're all in the lap of the LinkedIn gods, aren't we? Because it's up to them what they decide to do. But ultimately, it's about how we consume the content. It's about how we share the content, and it's the humans using it and engaging and speaking to other human beings that I guess determine what they will then decide the algorithm does.
Yeah, it's like even crazy things like, so have you seen the games section?
Yeah,
They're even launching new games, and I've sat there a few times because I get notifications saying 1,500 other marketing people are playing this game. And I'm literally looking at it going, what the fuck have they got time?
I know. I've only ever looked at games once, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I've
I
looked at
play
it.
Wordle every day, and I've only got time to play Wordle every day. At the weekend, I play your Strands and I play all the other ones. But I'm
Well,
like, who has the time? And if I've got time to do that, I'm getting my headset and I'm going for a walk. I ain't sitting on my laptop doing a game.
and that's the thing. So I think one of the reasons that they actually launched that is they understand and know that there is people on LinkedIn. So like me and you, we're on there all day, every day because it's part of his role. But actually, say you work in HR as an example, you're more likely to be on there before you start work in your dinner hour when you're having a bit of a
Right.
break, and then when you leave work at end of day. So most of the time, you're actually looking for consuming content that's a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun, because you
Right.
want to break away from the noise of
I
work.
see.
And I think that's why they brought the games in to try and appease that, but they didn't realize that they get that from the human interaction from the post instead.
Yeah.
And
Just
that's what people are looking for.
yeah, it's just duplicitous. By the way, I'm going to correct you. I don't actually spend all day on LinkedIn, despite what people think.
I don't even to be there.
Really mindful. I go on mindfully. I go on with intent. I probably go on, I would say max, if it's a day when I'm out and about, 10 minutes. But if it's an office day, maximum 3 hours a day. And that's proper engagement. I do not scroll. Life's too short to scroll.
And that's, to be fair, that's one of the things I actually say to my clients, because you can mindlessly spend hours and hours and hours scrolling through your newsfeed just trying to find stuff that could be your ideal target market. But actually, if you have something like a sales nav account, you can identify those people. You can pull up who's actually posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that half an hour that you were spending on a morning before, where you managed to engage with 10 posts that took you forever to find, all of a sudden you've engaged with 30, and they're all absolutely
Where you want
on
to be.
point relevant. And the great thing about that is, once you're engaging with that stuff, you're pushing your content out into their newsfeed as well. So you're building that
Rewarding
when,
you for doing that. Yeah.
yeah, so it's gaining that. We know not everyone has a need when they see us, but it's ensuring that you're at the forefront of the mind
Mm.
when they do have a need. So that's why you need to keep doing the comments, need to keep doing the likes, making sure that you're popping up in these people's news feeds. It's also a good idea as well to approach the company page, because quite a lot of business owners will spend a lot of money on that company page, having banners created, creating video content that's going out on there, paying for a marketing department or an external marketing department like me to actually do it for them.
Mm.
So they're constantly checking it out to make sure it's doing what they need it to be doing,
Yeah.
because they want to ensure they're getting a return on investment on it. So if you're on there putting a like and a comment on their company page regularly, the person that you want to speak to is then going to jump into your inbox and say, thanks for supporting me, it's really appreciated. And then all of a sudden you're in a position where you can go, yeah, no worries, I like your stuff. Who does your recruitment?
Yeah. It's a really good call. Do you know what? I think so many people miss that. I think so many people miss that just thinking now. That's a really good thing for us to do as well. I don't think we do it
A
enough.
lot of people like don't even think about it, but it is like, especially with your
Great action.
small, medium-sized businesses, everyone's all over it because they spend it's a lot of money to outlay on marketing. Marketing's not cheap.
No.
you want to make sure that actually that money that's being spent in that area is being spent effectively.
Effectively. No, that is what an amazing bombshell action point that I think everyone listening is probably going to take away from this. But you have been, I knew you'd be valuing, and I really appreciate, and I hope we haven't exhausted your voice too much.
Right. I
If
got, to be fair, I've not actually got to speak to anybody else today. I was supposed to be in Manchester with Abby and Amy tonight, but I've had to go.
Sorry. Oh, well, you saved it all for us. We are so grateful to you. And obviously, if you are interested to know more around how Gem with SocialJems and So Easy can help you, I probably said that really wrong. Please, all the links are in our show notes. Make sure you mention the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast when you are contacting Gem. And I cannot thank you enough for coming back on. And I will, obviously, by the time this has gone out, you'll have seen lots of photos of the LinkedIn wedding of the year. And I'm sure we'll be getting lots of photos together. So lots of throat spray before then, Jem. Thank you so
I'll
much
even
for joining
bring, I'll
us.
even bring my gimbal to make sure we've got them from a distance. Some good ones.
Very good. Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really grateful to you.
More than welcome. I always love coming on.
Take care.